You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, we so appreciate having you listening here with us. If you enjoy the show as much as Jeff and I enjoy amplifying these educators' stories, I'd really like to encourage you to leave a rating and review. It takes about 3 minutes. Just click your star rating. I personally am a fan of that 5-star review, and then share a comment about what you enjoy most about our podcast. To be honest, this just allows us to reach more listeners and further share these amazing educators' message. All right, let's get to the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 85 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and as always, I'm with the relaxed and very chill Jeff Gargas.
Yo.
You know, you are sometimes relaxed, Jeff. I think in this episode with Jeremy, he got the wrong impression of you because you're kind of high-strung, but I think
I'm high-strung?
Well, I don't know that you're that high-strung, but he definitely got this mentality that you were this cool, chill guy sitting back with your sunglasses. I don't know if that's actually Jeff Gargas.
I mean, I do say dude a lot.
Yeah, you do say dude. Maybe she's in California.
Dude. Like, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm fairly relaxed in some ways.
You know, Jeff, we had a really cool chat with Jeremy.
We did.
To get to that part of the podcast, but he said something that I'm not sure if you caught that I want to kind of get your thoughts on. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, let's do it. What's up?
All right. So if you remember during this recording, we asked him about his failures, and then naturally we asked him about his successes, which we do for all of our teachers during our typical interview. And he made a comment about how he struggled initially thinking about his success. And I wonder, I mean, you travel around the country working with teachers in districts, I mean, all over. And do you think this is common in education, that educators struggle to think of those successful moments?
I'm smiling so big right now because not only do I remember him saying that, but I literally jotted a note down about it. So I'm really, really glad you brought it up. So, like, this is something that I've noticed just all the time. One of the sessions I do at training in different conferences, speaking at, is actually about like increasing your impact through entrepreneurship and sharing ideas. And it was actually one of the last 2 weeks when I did it. I can't remember what conference it was at this point, but and a teacher actually said, I've got some ideas, but they're nothing better than what's out there. So little things like that, and this sort of doubt. And I didn't ask her, but I'm pretty sure if I had asked her about her for failures, she would have been able to rattle off 500 of them. And Jeremy was the same thing. Like, he was really quick to rattle off. Yeah, he gives us actually 2 failures, and really dives into them, which I loved. But then he said that, yeah, he said, I'm glad this came up. I had to ask my wife, like, hey, like, what success did I had? And that's something that I think just happens too often, if you ask me, with teachers. Is teachers are very, very quick, and it's easy for them to think of all the failures that they have had, all the challenges, all the times they've tried something that didn't work, or the face plants they've had and stuff like that. But then you ask them about what they feel successful about, and you'll get a lot of when my students succeed and stuff like that. And that's a great answer, but like, I love getting a little more detailed. But tell me time that you actually felt successful. Like, can you recall that? And I think it's just this nature of teachers to just always being striving to get better and always knowing that they can do better tomorrow than they did today. That, I think sometimes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I just want to kind of say it right now, Ray, is like, if you're listening, you're an educator, you're a teacher, like, it's okay to stop. It's okay to celebrate even the small wins. In fact, you should really do that more often. But you're doing amazing work. Your job is crucial. It's not just important, it is crucial to the future of our world. What you do is crucial and important, and you do amazing things. So, like, it's okay to stop and celebrate some stuff. High five one of your colleagues for being amazing, High five yourself for being amazing. And just don't be afraid to look at those things and think about the success you had. Sometimes, we talk about reflection a lot and reflecting on all the the failures and struggles to find the lessons learned in that. We talk about that obviously a lot on here, but The reason I love having that second question there, or the third question after the failures about success, is because it's just as important to reflect on those successes. I think we worry sometimes about reflecting too much on successes, and maybe we feel like we're going to get a big head, or we're going to forget to think about the things we need to fix and stuff. But it's okay to do that. Just reflect on it the right way and be like, hey, things are going pretty well. I'm doing some good things. I need to keep doing these things. I need to celebrate the fact that this happened, or that I'm an amazing teacher. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's just something that I've noticed, and it kind of bothers me, honestly, because I see the amazing things and the stress and the hard work the teachers put in, and then I don't see enough of the celebration of themselves and of others, of these successful moments and stuff. So I want us to do that more. I want teachers to not be afraid to do that, and to focus on that stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up. I hope I didn't just ramble on for too long about it, though.
No, it's really interesting. I mean, you have teachers are just so naturally trained to be reflective. They're constantly trying to find a way to improve, which I think gives them this mentality of not always being successful, because there's always something you could have done better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I also think that on the flip side, there's some extreme educators out there that you come across that are celebrating so many things they're doing that they get this kind of negative connotation of being a bit what's the word, like braggy is what I want to say, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not really what I want to say. Um, and so I feel like educators have these two extremes, right? You either have a teacher that celebrates too much and kind of boasts about themselves, and you have the educators on the other side who are so reflective that they can't feel success. And it's important, like if you're listening right now, I want you to know that you taking a moment, multiple moments to celebrate how amazing you are is not, it's not negative. It's not bad. It's good to take time and celebrate everything you've been able to achieve. I mean, Jeff, you said it perfectly that this job is not just good, it's essential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, if you're sitting back saying, "Oh, I don't know the last time I did something great," like just so you know, it was probably 5 minutes ago, and you're not getting credit for it. So yeah, I like that pick me up, Jeff. I like that kind of shift of, hey, if you're listening right now, give yourself a pat on the back, because if Jeff and I were there, we give you a big old hug where how great you are.
And it's on the flip side too. I think some of that comes from the negativity and criticism that comes from the outside world, because that's just unfortunately where we're at. And I think we let that, and sometimes when we reflect on the challenges and the failures, we criticize ourselves or let others criticize us, and then that brings you down too. And I heard something recently that was really, really powerful, and that is, I'm going to see if I can say it right, but don't let compliments go to your head, or criticisms go to your heart.
Mm,
So that extreme you're talking about is the compliments going too much to your head, and you start thinking, I'm amazing, I have all these successes, and then you stop trying to improve, and you get a little big, and that's where you get hurt. But also, you can't let the criticism go to your heart and say, oh, I'm a horrible teacher, I don't have anything to offer, because the world's saying that I don't do my job well enough, because look at this generation, or whatever it might be, or my boss came down on me, or my friend's family caller, whatever, said something about me. Like, you can't let that bring you down either. You got to stay that even, but it's okay to focus on the struggles and the failures and reflect, but it's also okay to celebrate and stuff. So awesome point. If you're listening, you are amazing. We love you, and you're awesome. So celebrate
let's go
that.
back to that hugging thing. Are you a hugger?
Me?
Yeah, like
Oh, I'm totally a hugger. I'm a high fiver. And then as long as the relationship's at a point where hugging is okay, I'm definitely a hugger. Like, if you want to hug me, I'm gonna do it.
if it's kosher, then you're good. Like if you guys,
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to hug me, I'm hugging.
all right, that's good to know, because when all these people listening come to the Teach Better conference, like not a kissing booth, it's going to be a Jeff hugging booth. You just go up and get a big old hug from Jeff that you've been waiting to get all year long, and
Yes,
down the days, marking down the calendar just to see Jeff Gargis in real life. Oh, it's gonna be so cool.
we're making this happen. It's gonna be Jeff's hugging hut.
Ooh, a hugging hut.
Yeah, and it's just gonna be,
That'd be awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be really cool. And actually, like, we're gonna throw like a curveball. It's actually just gonna be me and then a picture of Jabba the Hutt. I'm the hugging, he's the hut, and it's just like,
I'm
no.
so glad I'm not involved in this. Please go about that.
Anyway, moving on from that, I just kind of ruined. I thought we were on a good thing there. I think I just brought it down. But yeah, if you do come to the Teach Better conference in November, I will definitely hug you if you would like me to. Use code Teach Better, or I'm sorry, what is it? Podcast Talk. Sorry, to save $50 as well.
Hey everyone, while we take a quick break, I just want to share with you how much I appreciate hearing from all of you about how much you're enjoying our Teach Better Talk podcast. If you're listening right now on a cell phone, make sure you take a screenshot and share it with us on social media with hashtag #TeachBetter. Don't forget to tag Jeff and I because we absolutely want to be a part of your journey listening to Teach Better Talk.
So let's talk about Jeremy. So Jeremy Rinkel, he's a high school teacher. High school English. I think he's also taught history, he said, as well. He's also he's a father. He's also a yoga teacher. We talk a little bit about some of his workout and things that he did. He's got a master's in educational policy and a master's in teaching as well. He really he's got a really interesting ride through his educational journey, which I really love that he shared it all with us and dove into that. And sort of his new outlook on teaching is really cool. Sort of what he learned. I'm trying not to give away his story because I want him to tell it, but I think you're really going to love how he's sort of come back to his new realization of teaching and what he's focused on. And he's doing some really cool stuff. I love his Teach Like Woodstock stuff. We didn't dive into it in this episode because we had so much other great stuff that he was sharing, but he talks about just a little bit about that, but super pumped to have it. I got to meet Jeremy just a week or so ago in Richmond, Indiana, and met him in person. He's just as nice in person as he sounds on the podcast. Super nice guy. Chad and I got to meet him. So this was a really great episode. I think he brought a lot of value and some really cool stuff. So Ray, anything you want listeners to take away from this?
No, I just hope you enjoy. There's a lot of good reflection opportunities in here, and I hope that you kind of connect with Jeremy after this and keep the energy going.
Here's episode 85 with Jeremy Rinkel. All right, we are here and we are talking with Jeremy Rinkel. Jeremy, it is so cool to have you on the podcast. You and I actually just got to meet in real life last week in Richmond, at We Are Richmond in Richmond, Indiana. We've been connected on, through social media and stuff like that for a while, but you've done some blogging for us, which has been really well received. So it was really cool, Chad, and I got to meet you, sit down and chat for a little bit last week, and then we said, hey, we got to get you on this podcast. So here we are. Man, how you feeling today?
Hey, it's great. I got my 4 miles ran this morning, and
nice.
It was great to connect with you and Chad at Richmond. Great conference over there, and it was just it's been a great day so far today in Illinois. No rain, at least.
Nice. Now, where are you at?
I am in Effingham, Illinois. If you come across Interstate 70 from Indiana, Ohio area, you'll run right into us.
So if you ran 4 miles, can I have one of those miles and I can count it as like
Ray, how many miles did you run today?
Well, I took my dogs in the car to get coffee this morning. Does that count?
No, it doesn't. I did 3.1 last night. And then I voxed and sent Ray a message asking her if she had ran a 5K, and she hadn't.
Well, I don't think it's fair. If you ran all this time, and Jeremy, you ran all this time, like, why can't you share with me?
All right. Last night I ran 2.1 and Ray ran 1. It was really well. I was very proud. Jeremy, we razz Ray quite a bit, led primarily by Adam Welcome, getting on her about the fact that she doesn't like work out or anything, and somehow, is still probably in better shape than all of us. But yeah, so that's awesome that you got 4 in today. That's really cool. That's a great way to start the morning. I've been hooked on these late night runs for the last week here. I don't know why, but I've been really enjoying going out about 10 p.m. and just they've been warm. We've had some warm nights, just clear skies. It's been pretty peaceful. So, but anyway, That's not what we're here to talk about, Ray, is it?
Are you sure? It seems like we should keep talking about how great I am and how I got 2 miles in.
We could do that.
No, Jeremy, I want to make sure that as we get started, we do have some questions for you, I guess. But would you mind sharing with our listeners kind of a little backstory around everything you do in education outside of your amazing run and good coffee drinking skills?
Yeah. I've been in education for about 12 to 14 years, somewhere in there, if you count my substitute teaching. Um, and basically, I'm a high school English teacher. I'm also certified to teach high school history. For a while, I taught both. Now I'm just right now with the current position, I'm teaching English, and I feel the real need to incorporate and get kids ready for what they're going to actually see when they get to the workforce by using technology in the classroom. So that may involve, anywhere from just basic essay writing and basic blogging to using 3D printers to whatever. So that's kind of what my role is right now within education, as well as going to teacher conferences and sharing with other teachers what's going on, particularly in my classroom, and how I can encourage them to be better teachers, but also for me to learn and to meet Jeff at Richmond. I mean, how could I go wrong with that?
Yeah, that was awesome, and I love two things, Jeremy. I love that you talked about how your focus is on preparing those students, getting them ready for what they're going to be facing in the workforce, and how there's got to be some sort of integration of technology and the things, not just what they're going to need to know, but also the tools they're going to need for that. And then I love the focus. We talked about this while we were at Richmond as well, that you have this focus now on sharing things out too, because you're seeing the power of going to these conferences and blogging and speaking and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. This is how it's working for me. And maybe you can take this into your classroom. Maybe it works for your kids. So I love that. We talk about it all the time, how every problem that we face as educators or in education, there's a solution somewhere in someone's classroom. So more teachers doing what you're doing and being willing to step up and share it out, that's the solution generator there. So loving it. So let's talk about failure for a second. I know you listen to the podcast. I know you know what I'm about to ask, but I want you to share a story with us about a time that you've had a failure in your career, in your life. Tell us, what happened, how did it make you feel, and then let us know, how did you overcome that, and then what did you take away from that experience?
How long do we have?
6 hours.
Yeah, failure. If you're not failing in your classroom, you're not taking enough risks. That's kind of my solution. In my particular instance, I basically split my teaching career into the first 5 years. Then I took 5 years out of the classroom, and then I'll be starting my 4th year back in the classroom. But back whenever I taught the first 5 years, I learned a lot about failure and a lot about myself. For example, I started a TV and video production class at my high school. It's a real rural high school, maybe 200 kids in the high school. And it was my 2nd year teaching, and so I was still in the impression mode, follow administration, make sure everything is professional and to the T. But I realized, looking back, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I had that thumbs on micromanaging approach of that class and all my teaching for that matter. And whenever that happens, it stifles the student creativity that I wanted them to have from the beginning of the TV and video production class. So a lot of the times they would share ideas with me, and I'm like, well, let's not go there because it's really not funny to adults, or, so I really felt like I stifled that creativity. So that would be, failure number one back in those times, because I wasn't as student focused, and my classes weren't student led the first 3 to 5 years of teaching for me. So I learned basically from that failure that, I need to really be focusing on relationships. And I really didn't realize that until I was actually out of the classroom. So to make a long story short, I was burned out after 5 years, and ended up having a thyroid issue that sent me into major depression, and I had to resign my job. And so there was failure. I felt like a failure because I was letting my family down. I was letting the new school district that hired me down. I was letting the people that basically put their neck out on a limb to help me get the position. So fast forward, and I'm now in my 4th year of restarting teaching. But the last 2 years of the 5 years that I had off, that's easy to follow, isn't it? The last 2 years before I started back full time in the classroom, I substitute taught almost every single day. and I focused on building a relationship with kids. And I told myself, if I'm going to go back into teaching, things have to be different from the first 5 years. So since returning, uh, focusing on the relationships and being goofy and not taking things as professionalism or as serious. Well, you want to be professional, but you want to have fun too. And there's a fine balance, and that's really what I learned from the failure is that I need to really be focusing on the kids because that's why I'm here anyway, not me to be an authoritarian over their learning. So there's a failure and kind of a recovery, I guess.
Yeah, I love that, Jeremy. I really appreciate you sharing. I mean, in that personal story there, and I heard three like sort of themes within there. One is reflection because the whole way there you were talking, I was reflecting back, I'm thinking back, and Justin, and then your persistence of going through that struggle and dealing with it, but knowing if I ever come back, I'm going to make changes, and then getting back into it and doing the substitute, and then coming back in now. And then the final thing that I kind of heard in there was growth, that you took that opportunity of those things that came along, the challenges and the decisions and everything you made to grow each time, and then come back now stronger than ever before with reflecting back and readjusting to how you approach things. And that's awesome. I really appreciate it. A lot of value in that story, man. I really appreciate that a lot. So let's flip it now. Let's talk about a success you've had. This can be something big or small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what'd you take away from that?
I was really happy that this question came along because I had to even stop and ask my wife. I'm like, what successes have I really had in the classroom? And I'm going to go back to that first 5 years. I did have some successes, just despite how I had that thumbs on approach before. We read in my English class at that time. We read Homer Hickham's October Sky. And I've always been a space nut. I went to Kennedy Space Center when I was like 6, and then the Challenger exploded whenever I was 6, the year after I had visited Kennedy Space Center at that time. And so I've always been tied to the space program, and I've thought, man, how can I teach this novel, and how can I get some hands-on experiences with this? So we researched coal mining, we researched Sputnik and the space program, and all that kind of stuff around the 1959 or 1957 to the early 1960s. And then at the end of the novel, I decided I'd go to a hobby store and purchase 9 rocket kits for my class of 18 kids and have them build their own rocket, paint it up. And then it worked out to where we were able to actually go out back behind the school and have a rocket launch. And kids will still, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's out in public, whenever I run into them, they'll be like, hey, I remember, that rocket launch we had. That was the most cool thing we ever did in school. So, that the students really come back with that. Another instance, I know you said one success, but I have to throw this one in there
No,
too
go for it. Yeah.
because I've been teaching a lot of Mitch Albom's books, Tuesdays with Maury, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, Next Person You Meet in Heaven, are all stories that we read. Because I tried to bring in some modern stories as well. But I've always taught Tuesdays with Maury. Every year that I've taught, I've taught this class, and kids come back to me and talk about how some of the life lessons that Maury teaches are life lessons that they've taken on to carry out throughout their early lives. And I've got students in their late 20s now. So, but one particular 3 years ago, whenever I came back to teaching, the first year I was back after the 5 years that I was off, I had a parent come to me and with tears in her eyes told me about her son and how he was able to finally open up and talk about his grandparents' death, which they had died tragically. And through this book and talking about death and talking about life, he was actually finally able to open up and talk and cry and deal with that particular instance in his life. And I mean, I'm sitting here and I've got the hair raising on my arms and the goosebumps are going on my arms because I felt like that was like almost like, okay, this is a reminder of why I'm in the classroom and why I've got to continue to teach despite kids not wanting to read and are unmotivated sometimes. I've got to keep doing this.
I've got goosebumps right now too, man.
And it doesn't have to be.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it doesn't have to be big. I mean, it can be just little bitty, fist bumps in the hallway or whatever, just
Yeah.
to show that you love and care for kids.
Yeah, those little reminders are essential, not only in the classroom, but just in the hallways and when students walk in the door. And, I really love your focus on school being more than content driven. I mean, geez, Jeff, I feel like we talk about that all the time. That,
Hmm.
if you're going into teaching to just relay information to students and have them soak that in and then kind of dish it back to you, our job is really mute. I mean, there's Google and YouTube, and I think that those mediums help students gain information at like a depth of knowledge one, a depth of knowledge two. But when you get deeper into the content, you really start teaching the whole child, right? How does this apply to your life and why is this valuable? So your focus on integrating that within the classroom and put an emphasis on technology, which is enormous in our day and age, is really inspiring. What is fueling your fire? What kind of keeps you motivated to do this work?
I truly believe that right now there's no better time to be in education because we've got access to more tools, we've got access to more information than ever before, and we've got opportunities to connect with one another, opportunities to learn and collaborate from others. So I think this is a great time to be in education. That lights my fire, as well as just you know every day just going into the classroom, the school. And I have to admit I'm not perky every single day, but I try to be as much as possible. um, and just to see the students smile and laugh, that's really what I go for, especially right when they get to school. I want to see that smile and I want to see that laugh. So sometimes it takes dressing up and throwing a wig on. Sometimes coming back from Christmas break, kids are always, I wish I was still on Christmas break sleeping. So I grabbed my hippie flag, and I ran laps in the gym, and slowly but surely we'd get the smiles and the laughter that I'm wanting. So that's what gets me excited. I feed from their energy too, and I know that they look to me and to other teachers to give them the energy and to sometimes change their mood, because
Sure.
teaching just isn't standing in the classroom and, like you said, just sharing content. There's much more to education and the whole child.
Absolutely. You have to show up for your students, just like we ask them to show up and give their best. We have to show up as well. It's really important. What type of advice would you give a new teacher? Maybe this is a teacher that's new to the profession or new to your district, or even just a new listener to Teach Better Talk that's listening to your stories about relationships and this approach in education where we are more than just content delivery systems, but want to make learning relevant. What advice do those educators need to really reach more students?
Always, always, always do what's right for kids would be my advice. It's the reason that you wanted to become a teacher. You wanted to be. You may love your content, but hopefully you love kids more, and that's what I would tell them, is to always do what's right with kids. And the first years are going to be tough. I mean, coming back after that 5 year break, I was like, and I'd taught 5 years, let alone, a 22-year-old right out of college that is teaching will struggle more than likely. And if they're struggling, I would encourage them to ask for help, that other teachers are around, that we're all in this together. One of the great things, my first 3 years of teaching, I had a mentor, and he actually was one of my high school teachers. I was fortunate enough to go back and teach in the district that I graduated from. So he was one of my mentors. The first year, we could go to that mentor for anything. We could use them as a sounding block. We could gripe to them. We could learn from them. Whatever, they were there to help and to make that transition from college to teacher a lot easier. But above all, my most sound advice is to do what's right for kids.
I love that. You might love your content, but you need to love your kids more. Love the students more. I think that's some powerful advice, Jeremy. Really really cool there. So, did you notice? I love that he touched on the mentor piece, and I know you're big on that. You do a lot of mentoring yourself. There's actually a new course you're working on that's all about that. So, do you have any words of wisdom, any mentoring guidance, or anything that you can provide to Jeremy for this next part?
Gosh, I love mentoring and I love being able to give feedback to educators and build relationships and all that great stuff. But this next part of our podcast is tricky. So I would suggest, okay, deep breaths. And you probably need to go get a fresh cup of coffee before we start this part of the podcast.
Here's my thing. He's gonna destroy it. He's gonna be awesome. So, Jeremy, we're gonna do the next 6 questions. Your goal is 15 seconds or less for each answer. You ready to roll?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, man. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
Just one.
Yeah.
Rocketbook. GetRocketbook.com is the website. Go check it out. I'm going to throw in an additional. This is a bonus. Adobe Spark.
Adobe Spark
is amazing.
Nice. Give us a book that you're reading right now.
Reading 2 right now. I just started Run Like a Pirate, Adam Welcome, and I'm also reading Mentors by Russell Brand.
Great.
Awesome. Who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
Steve Isaacs, great gaming designer. Principal L is awesome, and then Amber Hefner would be the last one.
Awesome. And give us a YouTube channel or website for educators.
Again, I can't just name one. Ditch That Textbook and TED Ed.
All right, give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine you think every teacher should get into.
Routines, I think they look different for each individual person, but for me, I've got to have daily exercise and me time every day. And for me, it's getting up to go to the gym at 5 or running at 5, which is what I did this morning.
Totally. Awesome. Me too. Yeah.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
This one was a little tough for me, but take calculated risks and to never be afraid to fail because failure equals growth.
I love that. I love the take calculated risk. I've been starting businesses for pretty much half my life or whatever. And I tell a lot of fun stories about just sort of going for it, running through walls, jumping off. Chad and I share stories all the time about the early days of Teach Better Team, and they're a lot more fun to tell when I tell about the craziness, but what people don't always hear is that they're calculated risk. Yeah, they're risk, and they can be big or they can be scary, but they're calculated. You've thought through them and stuff, and that's the difference between just kind of jumping off and not having anything to fly down or guide yourself down there with versus actually building the plane as you went, because at least you had an idea and stuff. So I love that you use that take calculated risk. I think that's really important for people to hear that calculated word.
Right.
So I thought you just nailed that, Ray. I think we're going to have to get that trophy, and he may be stealing it.
Wow. I don't remember the last time we gave someone a trophy after those questions. We're going to have to look back in our episodes to see who the last person was that we awarded it to.
I know we gave it to Joe, and then there was someone sometime after Joe that you wanted to give it to take it away from Joe, because Joe and I were picking on you a little bit. I can't remember.
Sanfilippo can't win everything, okay?
Yes.
Very cool, but he's going to start seeing how cool he is, and that's not going to work. So we got to take that trophy away.
There's someone I think it's 3 or 4 episodes after Joe's episode, you wanted to give it to someone else. So we'll have to go back and find it, and then Jeremy and I got to sneak in and steal the trophy.
If you're listening right now, I need you to message us if you remember the last person we gave that trophy to.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to get it from that person and hand it over to Mr. Jeremy.
I'm glad I won a trophy for this. This is awesome. You can't go wrong with giving prizes to kids either. So.
Well, Jeremy, I want to make sure our listeners can stay in contact with you, keep learning from you, keep talking about relevancy in the classroom and technology integration. It's fabulous. So would you mind sharing how they can connect with you?
Yes. Twitter is Rinkel Jeremy. It's RINKEL Jeremy. My website and blog is jeremyrinkel.com, and also teachlikewoodstock.com, which is kind of where I'm focusing on my work in progress of writing on tech and creating an awesome classroom environment. So teachlikewoodstock.com is where that content will be.
All right. And you can find all the links and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com. So including the links to connect with Jeremy, check out the progress on that work that he's talking about, and get to know what it means to teach like Woodstock. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that in the show notes. And be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really, really appreciate that as well. And let's take it one step further to think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and share this podcast with them. Jeremy, it's been awesome to have you on. It was great meeting you in real life and then getting to bring you on the podcast. Super excited about that. Love having you guest blogging over at teachbetter.com. I know there's another one in the schedule here to come out soon again from you. It's great stuff. I love that you're sharing your journey and getting out there, and I love that you came on here to share more of it with us and with those listening. So, man, we just really appreciate you and thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to get out and continue to share, because we're all better together. So thank you very much.
All right, until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.